Hello students, welcome to Banik Smart. So we are going to discuss about the India-China relationship in today's class. So it is otherwise popularly called as the Sino-Indian relation. So India-China relation is also otherwise known as the Sino-Indian relation. Fine. So the bilateral relations between India and ASEAN giants is marked by conflict and then cooperation. Okay, if you go by the present trend. So during the post-independent period, relation was cordial, and Indian Prime Minister Nehru put much emphasis on developing good relationship with China, and the Hindi "Chini Bhai Bhai" was the slogan in the air. Fine, it was. So the country became independent, and immediately in the post-independent period, India was very much close to China, and the bilateral relationship was very cordial. And this Hindi "Chini Bhai Bhai" slogan was very high in the air. And so both the sides signed the Panchashila agreement. So and this Panchashila agreement signed between India and China in general, in particular, became India's the principle of Indian foreign policy in subsequent period. Fine. So if you go to this, so this principle called Panchashila, the five principles of peaceful cooperation. Fine. This agreement was this Panchashila agreement. Okay, was signed in 1954. So 1954. So the Panchashila agreement was signed between the two countries. Fine. And so it was in subsequent period. Okay. So this became the guiding principle in Indian foreign policy. Okay. So what these Panchashila principles are? Fine. So have some detail on the things. So these five principles are, so if it's try, because it's very important, try to remember the five principles of the Panchashila. Fine. One is it is mutual respect. Mutual respect for each others. Territorial integrity and sovereignty. Territorial integrity and sovereignty. Okay. Number one. Number two is mutual non-aggression. Number three is mutual non-interference. In each other's internal affairs. And number four is equality and mutual benefit. Equality and mutual benefit. Equality and mutual benefit. And the fifth one is peaceful coexistence. Number fifth is peaceful coexistence. So these are the 5 principles of Panchashila signed between the two countries in 1954 in the post-independent period. So mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence. These principles, which were first signed by India in relation to China at the Panchashila principle, so subsequently became the guiding principles of Indian foreign policy. Fine. But why I discuss this? Because when it is India-China relation, so this Panchashila principle was first signed between India and China way back in 19. Fine. But with although it started with a very good beginning between the two sides, but in subsequent period, this relationship was completely diluted, and there is Chinese aggression and war in 1962. Okay, so 1954 relationship was very good, very cordial, very prospective. 1962 there is war between the two sides. So in this war, so it was a Chinese hegemony. They came, they entered. So the Indian army remained a silent spectator, looking at the size of the Chinese army, and but we built international pressure on China that led the Chinese army to take a U-turn and return back. Fine. Although militarily India was not able to confront China, but diplomatically we are able to put pressure on China from the international community, for which it has to return back. Fine. So although after that there is no war between the two, but the relationship is not at all cordial. There is always conflict over border, conflict over territories, and lot other issues. Fine. So let us discuss the issues one by one. Dispute over border and Chinese incursion into Indian territory, including violating the LSC, line of actual control. So so India shares largest border with China. Fine. And this border, although there is a McMahon line, dividing the border, but there is dispute. So China claim over Arunachal Pradesh. China earlier claim over Sikkim. Fine. And recently the issue of Galwan. Fine. So this dispute started, and for this issue, this Chinese incursion led to the war in 1962. Why the war? The war is because of the incursion. The Chinese army entered into Indian territory, violating Indian sovereignty. So that led to the war. Fine. But although the war came to an end, but since that day, there is regular violation of the territorial sovereignty of India by China. The Chinese authority at regular interval, so they violate the Indian sovereignty, Indian territorial sovereignty. Fine. And that led to the relationship deteriorating day by day. Okay. Then the most important development that took place in subsequent period that led to further deterioration is Chinese help to Pakistan. So India-Pakistan rivalry was it get further momentum when China supported Pakistan. The Indo-Pak rivalry was further vitiated when a big power like China started supporting Pakistan on anti-India platform. Fine. So enemy is friend in that way. So Pakistan looked at China as a friend because the deteriorating relationship between India and China that led Pakistan to be with China, and that also led China to be close with Pakistan. So in the long run, both can make India unstable. And in its desire to be close with China, Pakistan has handed over the land area called the Aksai Chin to China. Okay, and this area which is dispute over India and Pakistan has been handed over to China for development. Fine, and the closeness between China and Pakistan has further vitiated the atmosphere between the two countries. Fine. And the third issue in this line was the Tibetan issue. Tibet was an autonomous region in the British are left, and China put claim over Tibet. And the Tibetan spiritual leader, led by Dalai Lama, so the Tibetan rose in a revolt, and that is known as the Great Tibetan Uprising. But the Chinese army is able to suppress it. So the Dalai Lama, along with his followers, he left Tibet, and government of India granted them political asylum. But it is political asylum to Tibet leaders by India. And thereon the Tibetan government in exile, but it is called the Tibetan government in exile, is being run from India, from Dharmasala in Himachal Pradesh. And in the initial period, the Tibetan refugees were even permitted to conduct anti-Chinese demonstration inside India. When any foreign dignitary came on a visit to India, the Tibetans demonstrated against the Chinese occupation in front of them. Okay, and that is a reason for deterioration in the relationship because China feel that India is allowing the Tibetans to carry on anti-Chinese activity from Indian soil. Carry on anti-Chinese activity from Indian soil. Fine. And in the recent change in approach, so India although has allowed them political asylum, but has not been permitting the Tibetans to conduct any anti-Chinese activity from Indian soil. It is a change in approach because as a bilateral agreement between the two sides, although India has sympathy for the Tibetans, yet Tibet is an internal matter of China, so India has well accepted this, and the Tibetans staying in India are not allowed to conduct any anti-Chinese activity from Indian soil. Fine, that is what the Tibetan are not allowed at all to conduct any anti-Chinese activity from Indian soil. Fine. Then comes the next issue is the claim over Arunachal Pradesh. Earlier, China put claim over two states. One is Sikkim, second is Arunachal. But Sikkim issue is settled out, so no more China put claim over Sikkim. And in return, the issue of Tibet was accepted by India as China's internal matter. Fine, as China's internal matter. So Sikkim and Tibet, this is somehow sorted out. So the Tibetan are not allowed to do any anti-Chinese act on Indian soil, although they are allowed to run their government in exile from Indian soil. So claim over Sikkim by China is no more that vigorously followed by China. But the state of Arunachal Pradesh is claimed by China, and this continues even today. Fine. And coming to the next one, which is related to this one, is issue of staple visa. The Chinese authority issues staple visa to the Indian citizen of Arunachal Pradesh. Fine. To go to China. Staple visa is issued by a government for the citizens of a disputed territory. Fine. The people of the disputed territory are issued staple visa, which is not in the normal visa format. But the same practice is done by China because China dispute Arunachal Pradesh as a disputed territory between the two sides. But when it issues staple visa to the people of Jammu Kashmir, when it was a state and at present being two Union territories, it is opposed by India because we don't have any dispute with China over Jammu Kashmir as a single state or as two Union territories at present. But when the Chinese authority issues staple visa to the people of Jammu Kashmir, so it is being opposed by India because we don't have any dispute with China over Jammu and Kashmir. Our dispute is with over that Jammu Kashmir with Pakistan, not with China. But when China issue this, so we are opposing it. So India oppose this issue of staple visa. Fine. So this is a big issue between the two sides. Fine. But this has not yet been resolved. Fine. The next dispute between the two sides is trade dispute. So in the present situation, the nations are becoming traders. Most of the nations around the world, they want to do some trade activity because they know trade brings prosperity. Trade brings prosperity. Fine. So here China is a major manufacturer and China dump its cheap products in Indian market. Fine. So the Indian market is overflooded with Chinese goods. The Indian market is overflooded with Chinese goods and this affects the Indian manufacturers. This affects the Indian manufacturers. Fine. Okay. And this has also vitiated the relationship of the two countries. You go to any nook and corner of India, you'll find Chinese products. The Chinese manufacturer, from the electronics to the baby food, from Indian god and goddesses to the most sophisticated technology, they try to push to India. China is a major manufacturer, China is a major exporter, and the trade surplus or the trade relation is always in favor of China. The bilateral trade between India and China, called the bilateral trade, is always in Chinese favor. Fine, is always in Chinese favor. Okay, because it implies China export more to India than it imports. So you have to pay from our precious foreign exchange reserve to meet this import requirement. And as they try to dump, in economy there is a concept called dumping. China try to dump its products in Indian market, thereby affecting Indian manufacturers. So this affects Indian manufacturers. This is a big issue. Fine. So this has also vitiated the relationship between the two sides. Moving next. So in the last few years, India has been trying to be a member of NSG, the nuclear supplier group. You know, we have discussed this NSG, so the nuclear supplier group. Okay, this group has monopoly over nuclear commerce. Since India is trying to access the civil nuclear market, its membership of NSG will facilitate it. Facilitate Indian nuclear power program because it will be able to access the latest nuclear technology, the latest nuclear material, including fuel of nuclear fuel. But it's not possible on part of India because the membership of NSG is based on consensus. And China, as it is opposing Indian membership, so India is not able to be a member of NSG, and access the global market for its nuclear power programs. Fine. So this has vitiated the relationship between the two sides. Fine. Then the next issue of conflict is the One Belt, One Road and the CPSC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. OBOR stands for One Belt, One Road, or the BRI, Belt Road Initiative, or part of this is the CPEC, China Pakistan Economic Corridor. Okay, as this passes through the POK, Pak Occupied Kashmir, which one? The CPEC. CPEC passes through the POK. It is being opposed by India. India has been opposing it. Fine. And India has not participated in the Chinese prospective OBOR project because it feels it is not in Indian interest, rather it will be against Indian interest. So in the long run, so keeping the India's larger interest in view, so India has decided not to join the OBOR, and India has been opposing the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, because this corridor passes through the POK, Occupied Kashmir, which is a territory of dispute between India and Pakistan. And because this in this disputed territory, so China will build its projects, infrastructure. So this has further deteriorated the bilateral relationship between the two sides. Fine. And the next is the Doklam issue. Doklam is located in the tri-junction of India, Bhutan and Doklam. So tri-junction of Bhutan, India and China, and is very close to the Siliguri corridor or the Chicken Neck corridor. Fine. So as China has the plan to build some road activities in Doklam, which is very close to the Siliguri corridor, which connects Indian mainland with the northeastern states. So very close activity, construction activity near to this is a threat to Indian security as far as its northeastern states are concerned. Fine. So India opposed it. India sent its army, although that area directly belonged to Bhutan, but the bilateral agreement between India and Bhutan permitted India to send its army, and that led the two sides to be in stand-up for a long period. And after that, India also played its role diplomatically, and bloodshed, without much bloodshed. So this Chinese army has to retreat back. You can say this is a diplomatic victory for India, and utmost restraint was adopted by India during this particular war. with China without much aggravating the situations, without using firepower. So India was able to get a victory and the Chinese army has retreated back from this Doklam area. But since 2019, the Chinese activity at Golwan has led to the largest ever military mobilization between India and China since the Sino-Indian War. The Golwan standoff has compelled India to think of defense modernization, invest a lot, fine, invest a lot, fine, and India has to spend it, and India has to means be very restless because the imminent Chinese threat in the Galwan. And this even continuing, although through many round of talks, both the sides decided to retreat back. But there is recent news that China has been constructing some permanent structure in the occupied Indian territory, infiltrating to Indian territory, which is not advisable, which is not good in the interest of friendly relationship. That again led to heightened tension and deterioration in the relationship. So this Doklam and Golwan issues are still a big, although Doklam issue has been shut down, but this Golwan issue remain a big standoff to the two sides even at present. Fine. And next is the Chinese veto applied in UN Security Council over the Masood Azhar case. When India moved the motion in United Nations Security Council to declare Masood Azhar as a global terrorist. But it was opposed by China, and China applied its veto on this, thereby nullifying the Indian action. Fine. So this is a big irritation because a global terrorist went scot free without an international action on him, because one country without realizing the reality, without realizing the reality, so oppose a move to declare a terrorist a global terrorist. That is the biggest setback to international security situation, because so without properly verifying what the consequences, what it might have resulted in controlling terrorism, so China applied veto, and because it was nullified, the relationship between the two further deteriorated. Further deteriorated. Fine. So this is what the present situation. And if you look at the recent development, so China has the recent news 2-3 days back that China has built some permanent construction in the Indian side, entering into Indian territory. Last year, there are temporary structures constructed by China near the Indian territory. But recently there is report that they have upgraded it to permanent structures. And China is building the biggest bridge near the Indian border to facilitate the quick movement of the armed vehicles from Chinese side to the border areas over the river. So this has posed a big challenge to India from the security point of view. So students, so these are the issues or conflicting issues between India and China in the recent time. So just try to collect more on this, have a concrete idea. In the coming classes, we will take up what are the steps taken by China and India and more by India to normalize the relationship and build this relationship on a strong foundation. So the two giants of Asia can combinedly benefit from their coordination, because cooperation will definitely lead to more progress, and both have big prospect, both are sunrise economy, both have big prospect in trade and commerce. They can make the Asian continent to rule over the world, but that needs cooperation from both the sides. What steps have been taken for cooperation will be taken up in the coming session. Thank you for watching us. Thank you.